Welcome back to FanHouse TV's preview of the 2010 Major League Baseball season. I'm Dan Graziano, here with former Mets GM Steve Phillips. Today we're taking a look at the National League pennant races. Steve, last year the Colorado Rockies made an 18-game improvement from 74 wins the year before to 92 wins. Who is going to follow in their footsteps and be the most improved team in the National League this year?
Well, I kind of looked at that, and I think, look, Cincinnati Reds are going to be better. I think that Dusty Baker, getting some of these young players progressing, they're going to be better. The Arizona Diamondbacks, I think, are going to be better with Brandon Webb back healthy and Justin Upton healthy and productive this year. But I think in the end, the Atlanta Braves are going to be the most improved team. They're going to get themselves in a position to really push the Philadelphia Phillies. Tim Hudson, healthy, back for a full season. Tommy Hanson, another year of experience in the starting rotation. Jason Hayward, breaking into the major leagues, getting an opportunity to swing that big power bat. They've added some power with Troy Gloss at first base, and I like Melky Cabrera, Martin Prado in left field and at second base, respectively. So I think when you look at the whole package and Billy Wagner closing it out, it's a much different team. Offense was a problem in the past. Offense is better. The closer job to Wagner. The Atlanta Braves are going to be much improved this year.
And you say they'll push the Phillies in the East. That brings up an interesting topic. The Phillies have won the East 3 years in a row, and these perennially tortured Phillies fans don't know where to put themselves. The team is so good. Do the Phillies repeat and make it 4 National League East championships in a row?
Can you say dynasty?
Dynasty.
I mean, that's really what we're looking at right now.
Absolutely.
This Philadelphia Phillies team is the strongest team in the National League and arguably can stand toe-to-toe with the best teams in the American League as well. They have everything. They have balance, depth in the starting rotation. Obviously, if Cole Hamels comes back with Roy Halladay at the top of that rotation, there's not many teams that can match up with him. Brad Lidge is a question mark coming back at the end of the game, but offensively, they can do it all. They're a solid defensive team, and I really like Placido Polanco at third base. He's going to be a solid defender, but his at-bats, he extends rallies by taking the walk, and he's one of the best situational hitters in the game. The Phillies really going to win the East and going to be pushed by Atlanta, but really the Phillies cream of the crop.
So there is some precedent for this. The Phillies dominated the East in the late 70s and won the World Series in 1980, but it is unusual to see them this good. The Cardinals, however, have been very good for a long time. They're the defending champions in the National League Central. They've won it 4 of the past 6 years. Do they make it 2 in a row and 5 out of 7? I
kept looking at this division thinking, well, the Chicago Cubs, are they going to be better this year? Rudy Jaramillo, new hitting coach. Could he get Alfonso Soriano going? Is Aramis Ramirez going to be healthy at third base? Then I looked at the Brewers and said, well, they still have Prince Fielder and Ryan Braun. But ultimately, when you look at the St. Louis Cardinals and you have Chris Carpenter and Adam Wainwright in the front end of the rotation, and you have Albert Pujols and Matt Holliday in your lineup, I don't think there's a team that can really match up with the St. Louis Cardinals. And Tony La Russa and Dave Duncan are the best 1-2 punch of manager and pitching coach in the game today. I think the Cardinals win this division, and they may end up winning it by 5, 6, 7 games. They may pull away from the pack.
It would be their 8th division title since the year 2000 if they did pull that off. Over in the West, the Dodgers have won the division 2 years in a row. They actually had the most wins in the league last year. But there's some issues going on out there in L.A. that might make it a little harder for the on-field product to be as good this year. Who do you see winning the National League West?
Well, it's an interesting division. I think that you look at the Dodgers and say, well, they won the most games last year, so they have to be in the conversation. The San Francisco Giants, with the young stud pitchers they have to be in the conversation. But is their offense going to be good enough? They made some adjustments. Obviously, Aubrey Huff, Mark DeRosa, some additions out there, but they didn't really add that big bat in the middle of the lineup to protect Pablo Sandoval. I like the Colorado Rockies. I think the Colorado Rockies win the National League West. I think they have balance. They're a solid defensive team, good young pitchers. We saw De La Rosa come into his own last year. Ubaldo Jimenez really start to develop last year as well. They've got depth in the bullpen, and I just think Troy Tulowitzki's coming into his own to be a leader of that offense. I think the Colorado Rockies under the helm of Jim Tracy are really going to get out to a better start and not dig out of a hole this year and win that division.
Now, the Rockies have been to the playoffs 3 times but have never won the division. They've always made it as the wild card team. And speaking of the wild card team, who do we like in that spot in the National League this year?
Well, I'm going to go with my most improved team. That's going to be the Atlanta Braves. I just think pitching depth, you look at 1 through 5 in the rotation. Now, they don't have a Roy Halladay atop that rotation. They're 5 deep with power arms and good arms and sinker ball with Derek Lowe and some experience there as well. Bobby Cox and what could be his last year managing. Chipper Jones wanting to send Bobby Cox out as a winner. There's something I think that could be a storybook ending in Atlanta this year. They're going to win the wild card.
Braves make the playoffs in Bobby Cox's final year, so you have the Phillies, Cardinals, Rockies, and Braves. Out of that foursome, who wins the National League pennant?
I'm going with the Philadelphia Phillies winning the pennant. They're going to be the team going back again. I don't think anybody can stand toe-to-toe with them and have the balance and depth with pitching or offense. The Phillies are end up going back to the World Series.
So you are predicting a Phillies-Yankees rematch in the World Series. Who wins it?
Well, here's the difference. Here's the difference between last year and this year. Roy Halladay, career record, 37 games against the New York Yankees. He's 18-6 with a 2.84 earned run average. That will be the difference. The Philadelphia Phillies are going to defeat the New York Yankees, and that means Joe Girardi will be wearing number 28 again in 2011.
Phillies over Yankees in the World Series. You heard it here first, or maybe you didn't hear it here first, but you heard it here from Steve Phillips. So thank you very much, Steve. We are looking now for a guarantee, one final guarantee, one thing you know for sure will happen this year in the National League.
Well, in the National League this year, I have a young player really coming into his own. He's a real young player, but so much potential. I guarantee that Justin Upton of the Arizona Diamondbacks is going to hit 40 home runs this year and come into his own as one of the dominant offensive players in the league.
I'm going to make that note now for my fantasy draft, which is tonight. So thank you very much,
Glad I could
Steve.
help.
You can catch Steve Phillips and his baseball analysis all year long right here on FanHouse TV and FanHouse.com.